Welcome or welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead, where on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Today's Friday, so this is going to be a freeze-dry-ish video. I'm actually going to be cleaning out my Harvest Right freeze dryer. Last Friday, I showed a full week's worth of every single day freeze drying, where I showed how I did my chocolate covered fruit, 3 or 4 different batches. That has left this machine pretty dirty. So I need to actually spend this time getting it cleaned out. So I thought I would bring you along for that. If you have a freeze dryer, you're thinking about getting a freeze dryer, maybe you just got one and you're new, making sure that your machine is in clean and proper working order is very important. Number one, if you don't keep your machine clean, it can attract pests. It also encourages the growth of mold and other bacteria, and let's face it, we don't want that anywhere near food that we're going to be preserving, especially for long-term storage. Also, you need to maintain your appliance so that you don't compromise the functionality of the machine. Cleaning the machine is not hard, and it doesn't even take very long. Let's just jump right in. I don't know whether or not you can see, but the first thing I notice is the inside of this door is filthy. There is white powder, there is chocolate powder, and it's all on the seal here as well, and on the tray shelf. So we need to get everything out so that we can get it cleaned. But before we do that, we want to power off the machine for safety. First, I'm going to reach around the back and I'm just going to flip the switch to off, and that's just behind here. And you'll notice now we have a dark screen because it's turned off. I'm actually going to go ahead and unplug it as well. Now that the machine is totally off, I can take off the rubber gasket, and that just pulls right off. And you can see we've got a lot of food particles on here and just some nastiness that really needs to be cleaned off. So we're gonna take this into the kitchen. We're also gonna take the tray insert into the kitchen as well. So to get this out, I'm gonna pull it forward and then we're gonna just unclip it from the back. Now it might be a little hard to hold it at the same time as you are unclipping it, but here is the connector. And if you just push down on the end of this wire, there is a little push down button, and it will disconnect if you push that down and pull it out. And it's easy to put it back. So we're going to take this and the gasket into the sink and get them cleaned up. I'm going to start by using a bowl, and I'm going to put some mild dishwashing detergent inside. And then we're going to start with some hot water. And this is going to give us a nice sudsy water bath to use. Just going to set that in one side of my sink. And I'm going to start with this ring. Again, this is pretty dirty. You can see that. We need to get it cleaned off. So I am going to start with a clean sponge. This is one of the e-cloths that I've shown a couple of times on some Azure orders. I'm going to use the soft backside. I have found these come in handy for cleaning so many different things. Actually, sorry, for the ring, I'm going to start on the scrubby side because we're not going to be scratching or hurting anything. It's actually a pretty mild scrubber, and it's really going to get anything that's on here off. And I also want to check the back side just to make sure that there is nothing back here that needs to come off as well. That looks and feels pretty good, so I'm just going to give that a rinse, front and back. Make sure that I don't have suds hiding in the groove here. And now we want this to dry thoroughly. I do have a drying pad right here, so I'm just going to set it there. And we're going to move on to our shelf unit. Now you want to be sure that you don't get this connecting port back here wet. So I'm just going to start back here and just gently wipe this back part down. but making sure I don't get water in or near the port. This can be a little bit awkward. It certainly doesn't fit in my sink, but I can angle it in such a way that I'm able to get in there. So I'm gonna turn it this way with the port side up. And the orange side is the heating elements. We need to make sure that those are nice and clean. I'm gonna be using just the smooth side sponge here, and it's very wet and very soapy with hot water. I'm going to start on the orange heating pads. I'm going to take this off. This came unglued a long time ago. I'm not going to worry about that. The last batch of chocolate covered fruit that I did the first 2 trays of that batch with some sweetened condensed milk, and it really made that chocolate puff. And they did reach the top of this shelf, so I want to make sure that I'm thoroughly cleaning that. I have pretty big hands. If you have even larger hands than me, you might have a hard time reaching in here, in which case you could also use a bottle or a cup scrubber, just gently wiping down the inside like this, making sure that you're getting into all of the edges, like just behind all these edges here. So if you can't reach your hand in, this is another way you can do it. And I feel a lot of resistance on this one where that chocolate hit the top. There, it's already smoothed out. Now I can reach my hand all the way to the opposite side, but I can't get a really good push down for scrub. So I'm gonna rotate this after I finish this last one, and we're gonna do it again, but from the other side. That's gonna just allow me to get right up against just underside of here and make sure that it's thoroughly cleaned. That is looking and feeling good. I can see a whole bunch of chocolate on this one. All right, I'm satisfied with the level of clean I got on the orange. So now I'm gonna clean the bottom part of the trays. Same way, making sure we get all the way up in the corner on the back side. And I'm going to turn it again to get this half. One more area that needs to be clean is the very far back, the wall that goes like this. I can't really get that very well with my hand, so I am going to use that bottle brush to just scrub back there. This is nice to use because it's flexible. So it goes all the way up to the back and flush along the back side. It's a lot easier for me to do at this angle, for me to do about from here to about halfway through. So we'll flip it and do the other side as well after I do this last shelf. And do the other side. That looks much better in there. It's really getting into the nooks and the crannies between the shelves at the very back. There's a tiny little gap, and these bristles get back there. I can see stuff coming out of there. Then we're just gonna give that another rinse. And I'm gonna flip it and give the other side a rinse as well. And with this clean, I'm gonna just put it on my drying pad here and use a towel to wipe off the majority of the water. And then we're gonna let it sit to air dry completely while we clean out the inside of the machine. I'm starting with the outer edges and then getting my towel in, using the back of my hand to push the towel up on the orange side. And then moving my hand to this side of the towel to do this side. Then we'll flip it and do the other side. Again, starting with the metal outside. I have the original Harvest Right medium freeze dryer. I know that the newer Pro models have shelves that are closer together. I'd be really interested to know how you clean those, because I don't think I'd be able to get my hand in a towel into something that has a narrower gap. We want to make sure that we get all metal parts dry, inside and out. And now we have a clean freeze dryer shelf. I'm gonna let that sit here to air dry a little bit more while we go get the inside of the machine clean. I'm just going to get a fresh bowl of clean water, some mild detergent, and hot water. All right, let's go. Look how nasty it is in here. There's so much chocolate in here. There's chocolate powder in here. It's pretty gross. We've even got some on the cord here. We're gonna get all of this cleaned up. I'm just going to stick this through the handle to keep it out of the way for now, as well as to keep it off the bottom of the drum. And I'm just gonna be using that hot soapy water. I'm gonna start here where it's the worst. And then work my way up the sides and around the entire inside of the drum. Look at all that chocolate. Ugh. Because we're talking about long-term food storage, when we're talking about freeze drying, we want to make sure that the food that we're putting in the machine and taking out of the machine has not been contaminated by mold or bacteria. All right, that is pretty clean. There's just some discolored spots here. I can't actually get anything off. Now for the cord, I am just going to use the blue side and wipe it down. That looks good. I'm gonna get out the majority of the water. Got a towel. I'm just gonna get that spot dried. Top, bottom, back, so the entire inside here. And then I'm gonna take a towel, put this guy back in his holder. And I've got some white distilled vinegar that I'm going to pour onto this towel. And we're just going to disinfect the inside of the drum with white vinegar. And we're going to leave this door open for maybe an hour while we let that shelf air dry before we come back and put this back together. cleaned and disinfected. Looks great. Now we've got to deal with this door. Can you see all the food particles on the inside here? We are going to do the same thing. Some soapy water and our little scrubby side. And we're going to clean it until there's nothing left. That looks good. Go ahead and dry it. Wipe it down with vinegar. And we're gonna let that dry. This door is closed. It's not cinched. I still have my port out here because we don't have the rubber gasket on here, so there's a gap. That cord is fine, just sitting out just like that. So I'm gonna clean the outside of the door. It's not very dirty out here. Give that a dry. And go over it with some vinegar. And we're gonna do the same thing on the outside of the machine just to keep it clean. This is a good opportunity to clean the glass because the glass is touchscreen, but with the machine off, we can get that cleaned. Go over that with a little bit of that vinegar. And we're just gonna give the machine a once-over wipe down. My machine has seen better days. I've got some pretty good scratches on here, just the paint, because I've moved this multiple times trying to find the best place for it, and these are monsters. I would not suggest that. I would suggest knowing where you're going to put it before it gets brought into your house. Just give everything a once over. It's an appliance that can attract dust, dirt, grime, and since we use this for food, we want to make sure it's clean. Make sure your air vents on the sides are clean and the top of your machine as well. And then we'll just dry that down. And there you have it. We have a clean freeze dryer that we will put back together as soon as it's thoroughly air dried. And that smell of that vinegar has wafted off a bit as well. We're gonna leave it open until we're ready to put it back together. That looks great. It's been about an hour and I'm gonna go ahead and put this machine back together. Clean tray insert going back into a nice clean machine. Now the first thing we have to do is reconnect this port onto here. And on here, you can see that it has this raised part right here, which is what this clip on top fits into. So I'm just gonna line those up and push them together until it clicks. Make sure that's in there tight. There, little click, I heard it. And then you just wanna put this straight in, all the way back. You don't want it tilted, so just straight in. Put my little cover back on. I don't know that this is necessary, but I still leave it in there. Then we're gonna take our gasket and we're gonna fit this edge into the groove and just push it on all the way around. Clean gasket, clean drum, clean shelves, clean door. Now, this is almost ready to use. First, I need to plug it back in and then power it back on. And in a minute, we'll see our screen come on. Now it's ready for the next run. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Freeze Dry Friday, how to keep your Harvest Right freeze dryer clean and maintained. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.